Let's look at the capstone assessment called SMOKE. In this case, you are going to prepare a letter and a flyer, and it's going to promote a community festival, which includes a fundraising effort. You'll have a letter and flyer. Both will contain tables, and you will edit one and create the second table. And the first table will include formulas. The second table will include some interesting formatting. And that will be the flyer that you will send to interested people in the community. And then what you'll do is with this letter that you're going to send, which is a template letter, you will merge that with an Excel file, which has some data. For example, last name and first name. And that data will be interested people in the community to which you want to send the letter and the flyer, and see if you can gain some interest in the fundraising effort. So you'll merge those people in the Excel file with this document so that you can send the information out to different people in the community. So this is what the final project should look like. So you see that you have the letter and the table that you will edit, and then you have the brochure or the flyer that you will also create, and you'll create this one from scratch. And then you'll have multiple letters in this completed file for each person to whom you will send the flyer and the letter. So let's take a look at the instruction sheet. This sheet you should have downloaded, and that includes the instructions that I will go through these videos. So what we want to do is start with the original file, and this includes just the letter. You can see there's a blank page at the end. So let's look at the step number 2 in the instructions, and it asks you to take the text here and convert that into a table. So what might be helpful is to go ahead and turn on what they call the non-printing characters. When you turn those on, the paragraph symbols show where you have pressed enter as a hard return. The dots between the words are spaces, and the arrows, for example, are tabs. You can also see other items such as the page break with those non-printing characters. They're sort of formatting marks that are behind the scenes. So we're going to take this data and we're going to convert that into a table. And it asks you to not select the paragraph symbol here. Okay. So what we're going to do is go to the Insert Table option, and we're going to convert that text to a table. It will automatically assume from your data how many columns and how many rows you need. So this is correct, so we'll click on OK. And in number 3, we want to center the text in the first column. So we're just going to select it and go to the Home tab and center. And then we want to center all of the text on row 1. So this is row 1 right here. Okay, so we'll center that. And then we want to change the width of the last 2 columns to 1 inch. And you can do this several different ways, but I'm going to select those 2 columns. And then we want to go to the table design. Under the table tools option, we'll go to the layout and we'll choose width as 1 inch. Okay, so both of those will be 1 inch. The text in the last column will wrap because it's longer than 1 inch. So now we want to insert a row above the first row. So I'm just going to right click there and insert a row above. So there are other options for inserting above and below or left and right, depending on whether or not you want to use columns or rows. So what we're going to do in that row that we just inserted is type dragon boats for safe place. And safe place does not have a space after, or I'm sorry, a space in between the two words. So we want to then merge all of the cells in row 1. So we're going to select just the cells across in row 1. And we can go here to merge cells, or you can right click and go to merge cells. And what the merging will do is take those 3 cells and make them into one cell. And that way it's easier to center your data across the table. So what we want to do next is change the font size to 16 and ensure that the text in row 1 is centered. So this is row 1 now, and that is centered, but just to make sure, you can check here. And we want to change the font size in row 1 to 16. Okay, so in step number 4, we're going to apply list table number 3. Okay, so what we want to do is go under the table design. And if you're not sure and you don't want to have to scroll all the way down, you can go to this button to show more. And this is the list table 3. So if you scroll down, you can see the list tables here. And the list table we need is in row 3, and it's the first column. So it's list table 3. So if we click, it goes in to format the table in that list table 3 style. So then it asks you, and notice it changes some of the formatting. It doesn't have the grid lines, for example. So we want to deselect the first column in the table style options group so that the first column is not bold. So you can see applying that table style bolded these. So we're going to select this check mark here so that it is not selected and it does not bold those items in the first column. Then we want to bold all of the entries in row 2, which is the column headings. And we're going to apply a shading of light gray background 2, darker 10%. So you should have that row highlighted, and we're going to go to the shading. And for this column, this is the gray column. So we want light gray background 2, darker 10%, which is the first one here. Okay, so we'll apply that. Now we'll include a formula in the last column, and we'll start here in that 3rd row. And if you want, you can turn those formatting marks off just so that you can see a little bit better and not have those cluttering up your document. So we're going to include a formula here to calculate 70% of the cost. So, I'm sorry, 75% of the cost. So it will be 75% of this number. The way that Word views tables is sort of like how you view them in Excel. It views this as column A, this is column B, and this is column C. And then you want to look at the rows. This is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, and row 5. Okay, so you'll need to know that in order to include the formula here. So what we'll do is say 0.75 times this cell. Okay, so this cell is in column B and it's on row 3. Okay, so what we'll do is go to Layout and Formula, and it's going to assume that you want to add everything to the left, which is not what we want to do. Okay, always start with an equal sign, and then we'll say 0.75, and the time is the asterisk. So we're going to say 0.75 times, and then we'll use that B3. So we can't click there and add the B3. We have to type that in. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, because we're going to add that formula to this row and to this row, and you can't copy them down in a Word table like you would in Excel. So what I'm going to do is copy this formula, and that way I can paste it on these 2 rows and just change the row number. Okay, so we don't have to do anything else for the number format. So we're going to click on OK, and you can see it's taken 75% of this amount. Okay, so the next row, we're going to, this was B3, so we're going to multiply 75% times B4. Okay, so I'm going to go to the formula. I'm going to remove that and right-click and paste my previous formula. Now, this is B3, so again, this is B4, so we want to change that row reference to B4. Don't need a number format, so we'll click on OK. And then we'll do the same for the last one. No number format. We need to change this to B5. And then click on OK. So that's a nice way in Word to add your formulas. It just is a little more clunkier than Excel, but it is a way that you can add your formulas into a Word table. So what we do in number 6 is check the spelling, correct any errors. So we'll go to the Review tab, and in this version of Office it's under Editor. And you can see here for spelling it's checked, so there are no spelling errors. And in the instructions it says ignore any clarity and conciseness concerns. So here we can ignore this. And then it says ignore any instances where it says that safe place is incorrect. So we don't see any of that here. Again, we don't see any of the names showing up here, such as Jones. So we don't have to worry about that either. And also in step number 6, it says to center the numbers in the last 2 columns, which we'll do. These are the last 2 columns. Normally I would justify those, especially with the decimal places there, but this is okay for this purpose. And the last step is to center the table horizontally on the page. So we'll choose the table selector, and if you don't see it, just hover over the table and that will appear. And then just choose the center option there. Okay, so we'll stop there and then we'll pick up with the next steps and create the table in the next video.